What's up? Today I'm gonna be making cannoli, the classic Sicilian street food. Normally street foods are something you want to let that guy who wants to spend his time sitting over a cauldron of boiling oil deal with. However, frying stuff at home isn't too hard as long as you take some safety precautions into mind. Buy a pair of tongs for this one. It's worthwhile. I realized I didn't have any halfway through. Had to go get some. True story. Anyways, I've done chocolate dipped pistachio cannolis filled with strained ricotta in a very traditional Italian street food manner. Enjoy. For our classic cannoli, we have ricotta cheese. This is normally what is used, but you can use other quick cheeses like mascarpone, cream cheese. It just needs to be dry enough to maintain its shape once piped. So for the ricotta, traditionally you strain it overnight. That being said, you can also just squeeze dry this if that works out for you. There's always more than one way to do things. Egg yolks, marsala wine, sugar, butter, salt, and flour make up the ingredients for our cannoli dough. Into a food processor, let's add our dry ingredients first with our butter. Cold butter, treat this like pastry, give it a blitz to get to the breadcrumb consistency. Then add your egg yolks and marsala wine, click that sucker back, and bring it into a rough dough shape. This could be looked at as a type of pasta, you know, being Italian and all. Get that sucker on the counter. We're gonna knead it briefly just to homogenize it. It's a pretty sticky dough, so using a bench scraper will be your friend. Avoid adding flour at this stage though if you can, there's no real need. Get it into a ball. We're gonna wrap this up and give it a little rest in the fridge. An hour or so should do it, just enough to firm it up to make it a workable consistency. I saw lots of recipes that said do it at room temp, but it never worked out for me, so. Once it's all set, we're gonna grab a 4-inch cutter and a pasta machine. This can be hand rolled, but it does help to make it consistently thin using a pasta machine. It's always an adventure, so once you get it hooked up and you got that handle that's never gonna stay in place, get your dough out. Now flour is our friend. Divide the dough in two and begin on the thickest setting, working down. Sometimes the pasta machine can be crazy frustrating, whether it's the handle falling on the ground or tearing dough as you get too thin. It's about having enough flour and kind of that risk reward, you know? Just keep trying over and over again until it works out. That's what I'm doing. The goal is to get these about a 1/16 of an inch thick or so. So on my pasta machine, I think that's 3 or 4 clicks down. Too thin's gonna be impossible to work with, but once you're there, start cutting these out, put them on a well-floured surface on the side of your workbench, and just keep rolling. When working with the pasta machine, I find that I go through a real emotional roller coaster. It starts out thinking, awesome, I'm gonna use the pasta machine. You imagine these beautiful tiled Italian kitchens with garlic in the background and tomatoes everywhere, fresh off the vine. Start out, seems okay, things go wrong, some things go right. By the end, the best part about using the pasta machine is putting back the pasta machine and for trying to forget the trauma that you've just gone through over and over and over again. But in the end, getting some semi-good circles of dough to make something like cannoli makes it all worthwhile. It's a good thing for what it is, punishing at times. Frying time. Grabbing my induction burner and a large saucepan. I'm using sunflower oil today for frying, but you can use any neutral oil, or you could even use olive oil if the taste doesn't bother you. Cannoli molds are a must for this. Go ahead and brush them with a little oil. I am using olive oil for the initial brushing. Once they get oily enough, it won't be a big deal. Add a little water to the side of each to make a nice seal so they don't come apart in the oil, though some will, I promise. Not everything always goes right. Tell you what, I can really see quickly when making cannoli how people always end up with such artisan cannoli that's all over the place, you know? I'm looking at some of mine. Some of mine are perfect circles, and others are so far away from perfect circles, they're closer to Easter eggs. Once you have your tongs, start the frying process. Good times. The goal is to not overcrowd your pan. That being said, I learned through all the different trials and tribulations of these that it does help to actually get them tight across your pan, because once they start frying, they create bubbles, and those bubbles make it super hard to turn them over and hold them in position to do the other side. Just remove the cannoli molds as you go, try not to burn yourself, and set these guys aside while we work on our fillings, dippings, and chocolate. Stand mixer fitted with a paddle attachment. Into the bowl goes our strained ricotta. We're gonna add some powdered sugar, vanilla, and salt to this. Go ahead and sift your powdered sugar to make sure there's no lumps beforehand. Doesn't necessarily have to happen, but it's a nice one just to make sure you're getting something as smooth as possible. I mean, this is one where it's all up front and you want to make it as nice consistency as you can, so why not? Add your vanilla and your salt and begin slowly. Do not go too fast because the powdered sugar will shoot everywhere. Start it up and make it nice and smooth. Go ahead and run your spatula around the bowl, making sure nothing's missing. And I realized that this isn't as smooth as it could be, so food processor. This will make it way smoother. Give it a check. Yep, it's better. Grab your cutting board, big knife, and some pistachios. We're gonna roughly chop these. Whenever I'm chopping something like this, I like to do a little like half circle motion, kind of pivoting off the tip of the knife as I do it. Makes it a little easier. Everybody's got their own technique, not necessarily wrong or right. Using an induction burner on low, we're gonna melt some chocolate, or you could use a double boiler if you don't have an induction burner. I've said it before, but induction burners go incredibly low powered, which is awesome for things like this that are delicate. You don't wanna get this too hot by any stretch of the imagination. Just keep stirring until it gets nice and smooth, then pull it off the heat when it's almost there, and just continue until you have the most beautiful glossy chocolate you can imagine. Dip away. Since every cannoli is going to be inherently not the same, they're all their own special kind of butterfly, it'll take a little bit of effort to get them all properly coated. This is artisan after all. Good times. Alright, grab your piping bag, fold your nozzle down into a container to make sure nothing comes out. Fill it up with your beautiful ricotta mixture. This is such a traditional Italian filling used in so many things. This is where a nice dry consistency will come way in handy and make your life so much easier. Begin piping into the middle of each one. We're trying to get these full up as much as possible. They're gonna feel nice and hefty in the hand. Piping that generous dollop at the end of each one will be a great way to showcase your dipping ingredients. Pistachios in this case, don't have it hiding inside like a turtle or something. With your chopped pistachios, sprinkle a nice amount on the end of each. That lovely color combination with the dipped chocolate, the green pistachios, and the light to dark brown, depending on how you're frying wet, cannoli shells. Stack them up into a pyramid. As is totally not traditional, but looks pretty cool, so that's what I did. That lovely, slightly sour flavor from the ricotta, combined with pistachio and chocolate in this fried envelope. Pretty much a match made in heaven. Decadent, lovely, kind of thing you can only eat a few of, but might as well. Making the classic Sicilian street food, cannelloni. Cannelloni? Cannoli.